All right, so we left off at the end of chapter 40. Jeffrey loses it finally with Russell and Piper, and he leaves. But then they find him, and Piper wants to make sure that Jeffrey will come to his birthday party. And Jeffrey has an idea, and he says, "I'll come, but only if I can bring somebody." And so we start at the beginning of chapter 41. The McNab boys didn't know whom they did expect Maniac to bring to the party. But one thing for sure, they did not expect him to come walking through the front door with a black kid. And that was only half of it. From the way the kid swaggered in, from the candy bar that jutted like a chocolate stogie from the corner of his mouth, from the ripstone evil scowl on his face, the kid had to be none other than Mars Bar Thompson himself. If black meant bad, if black meant in-your-face nastiness, if black meant as far from white as you could get, then Mars Bar Thompson was the blackest of the black. Here, in the middle of their living room, stopping the party, the neighborhood kids, the Cobras, even George McNab, stopping them dead as traffic, just walked in through the front door, the steel door, breezed right on in, past the bars, standing there. I own this jointing here. Before they knew what was happening, before anyone could reach for anything. Which, of course, is just what Maniac had in mind. Remembering how little Grayson had known about black people in black homes, thinking of the McNabs' wrong-headed notions, thinking of Mars Bar's knee-jerk reaction to anyone wearing white skin, and thinking, naturally, what else would you expect? Whites never go inside blacks' homes, much less inside their thoughts and feelings, and blacks are just as ignorant of whites. What white kid could hate blacks after spending 5 minutes in the Bill's house? And what black kid could hate whites for answering Mrs. Pickwell's dinner whistle? But the East Enders stayed in the East, and the West Enders stayed in the West, and the less they knew about each other, the more they invented. So his thinking is, hey, I'll bring someone who really doesn't like white people to a house full of people who really don't like black people, and they'll just, everything will be okay because they never meet each other. They're never around each other. And so that's his thinking. It hadn't been easy finding Mars Bar, taking all his lip about cheating in the race, taking some bumps and some shoves, Mars goading him to fight, but keeping his own cool, matching Mars Bar's glare for glare, telling him he wasn't as bad as he thought he was, really stroking him now, making him slam his candy bar to the ground. No? You want to tell me why I ain't so bad, fish? Go ahead, for I waste you, chest to chest. Keeping cool, letting Mars do all the huffing. Simple. You don't cross Hector. You stay over here where it's safe. How bad would you be over there? Stepping back then, folding his arms, smugging it up just enough, standing there in his white skin, gazing nonchalantly about 6 blocks deep in the heart of the black side. Guess that makes me badder than you. So he goads Mars Bar into feeling that he, how does Maniac show that he's more bad than Mars Bar? Or as Mars Bar would say, that he's badder than him? Because Maniac will go to the West End, which is white, and he'll go to the East End, which is black. But Mars Bar only stays in the East End. So he's trying to challenge him, and Jeffrey Maniac Magee knows exactly what he's doing. He knows that if he kind of shows that he's braver in some way than Mars Bar, that Mars Bar is going to take that as a challenge. They did not go straight to the McNabs. First they went to the Pickwells. Maniac wanted Mars Bar to see the best the West End had to offer. He's like, okay, before we go to the McNabs, who we know do not like black people, he's going to take him to the Pickwells, who welcomes everyone. The Pickwells, remember, are kind of compared to the Bill family. The little Pickwells made such a fuss over Mars Bar as over Maniac. They believed, as did all kids in the West End, that he carried 100 Mars Bars with him at all times. Not surprisingly, Mrs. Pickwell never batted an eye when she saw who was coming to dinner. It was quite a sight, all right. 16 Pickwells plus Maniac, plus a down-and-out golf cabbie, 18 so-called white faces, and Mars Bar Thompson. To his credit, Mars Bar didn't use the words fishbelly or honky once, though on one occasion he did bend the truth a mite. When a Pickwell kid asked him if it was true about the famous race in April, did Maniac really beat him going backwards? Mars Bar studied his fork for a minute and said, "Yeah, he went backward. But you got the story wrong. Wasn't me he beat. Was my brother Milky Way." The little kids couldn't understand why the grown-ups laughed for 5 minutes after that. As for Mars Bar himself, his expression never changed until the dinner was almost over, when the littlest non-baby Pickwell, Dolly, called him Mr. Bar. And even then, it wasn't so much a smile as a crack in the glare. So, like, the interaction with the kids, the interaction with the family, they're kind of getting to him. Even if Mars wasn't letting on, Maniac could tell he was pleased to learn his fame had spread to the west. When they left, half the Pickwell kids followed them, begging Mars to perform his legendary feat of stopping traffic. "Don't," Maniac warned. "It might not work over here." But the Pickwells persisted, and when they reached Marshall Street, Mars Bar commanded, "Stay here," and stepped into the traffic. Not only did he shamble, jive, shuck, and hip doodle at his own sweet pace, he did something he had never even done in the East End. He came to a complete and utter halt, halfway across and letting nothing but the evil in his eyes take care of the rest. He stood like that for 1 full minute. By the time he fully moved on to the far side, so the legend goes, 23 cars, several bicycles, and a bus was stacked to a dead stop in both directions. Maniac hurried across while the Pickwells stood at the curb, cheering and waving goodbye. But no one was cheering now in Fort McNab, and Maniac knew that despite the swagger and the scowl and the chocolate stogie, Mars Bar Thompson was one uneasy dude. Chapter 42. George McNabb was the first to speak up. He was stretched out on the only new piece of furniture in the house, a tilt-back lounge chair. Said McNabb, "What's he doing here?" The awkward silence that followed was mercifully broken by Piper tugging on Maniac's arm. "Where's my birthday present? What did you get me?" Maniac pulled the present from his pocket. Piper exclaimed, "A watch!" "No," said Maniac, "a compass. It tells you which direction you're going." "Like to the ocean?" asked Russell. "The ocean, Mexico, anywhere in the world. Only one thing." "What's that?" Maniac took the compass from Piper's hand. "I'm keeping it till school's over. If you go every day, both of you, then you can have it back and sail around the world." "On our raft?" Piper cheered. "Is it a deal?" Piper and Russell and Maniac did a 3-way high five. "It's a deal!" George McNabb pulled himself up from the easy chair and shuffled into the kitchen. He wore bareback slippers over his bare feet. His white ankles were dirty. He took a beer can from the fridge and headed for the steps. "Let me know when he leaves." Let's be specific. He says, "Let me know when it leaves," he said, and went upstairs. Maniac could feel the voltage that surged through Mars Bar and crackled black lightning from his eyes. Quickly, he clapped his hands. "Hey, isn't this a party? Where's the games?" So they played games. Silly games, whose main object seemed to be shrieking and screaming. Mars Bar allowed himself to be dragged into them, but his jaw was clenched and his eyes kept straying to the gaping hole in the ceiling, and to the cobras who were slouching against the walls and baseboards, sipping beers and watching his every move. None of them had spoken since Mars and Maniac walked in. Of course, as far as the little kids were concerned, the highlight of the whole party was not the birthday boy, Piper McNabb, but the McNabbs' new pillbox. They found every excuse to stay inside it. They fought over space at the narrow gunnery slots. When Mars Bar whispered to Maniac, "What is that?" Maniac said it was a bomb shelter. Then Russell called, "Let's play Rebels. White's in the pillbox, black's outside." A cheer went up and a dozen kids stampeded into the pillbox. Their gabble circled the center block walls and popped from the gunnery slots. "I'm gonna be white." "I'm white." "Me too." "Too many in here. We need more blacks." "Not me." "Not me." "We ain't got enough guns. Only the ones with the guns are in. The rest of you get out. You're black." "Give me a gun." "I had it first." "Come on, you meatballs. Black is the best part. You get to charge." "Yeah, we get to lose." "Look, you can use beer cans for grenades. You can lob grenades. Then you do it." Well, somebody gotta be black, else we ain't playing. I'm counting. 10. Time I hit 10, I want to see 5 of you out of here. 1. Russell counted. Not one came out. Not at 9, not at 10, not after 10. Maniac and Mars Bar stared in silence at the gunnery slots, where wide-open eyes began to appear, one pair atop another. The 3 words that Mars Bar sneered, the joke that he spat out, "Yeah, bomb shelter," did not even have the moment to themselves, for just then another word, "Geronimo!" came plunging from the sky and landed with a floor-jarring, heart-stopping crash directly behind him. A cobra had jumped from the hole, a fat red-haired cobra who was now rolling on the floor and laughing so hard, as were all the cobras, that his face matched the color of his hair. "You see him? You see him jump? I never seen. You see his face? Somebody check out his pants. Check out his drawers. Oh man." Maniac had to wrap Mars Bar in a bear hug to keep him from charging the fat red roller. The laughter stopped as if cut by scissors. The cobras were standing. John McNabs sauntered forward. "You got a problem, Sonny?" "That wasn't funny, John," said Maniac. "He could have been hurt." McNabb kept his eyes on Mars Bar. "I ain't talking to you, Magee. I'm talking to Sonny here. Don't you like our parties, Sonny boy?" Mars Bar strained against Maniac's arms. "You ain't got to worry about me coming to no more of your parties, Fishbelly. And you ain't got to worry about me invading this piss hole. Anybody come to a block party, they faint from the smell." McNabb advanced. Maniac shouted, "John, you owe me! I brought the boys back." McNabb took another step, then stayed. The cobra stayed. And Maniac, clamping the struggling Mars Bar for dear life, lugged him down a gauntlet of seething eyes to the door and the street. Mars Bar wrenched free and stomped on ahead. Maniac followed. It was almost dark. High above, the streetlights were buzzing on, one by one. After several blocks, Mars Bar wheeled. "You suckered me. You softened me up with them pick peoples and then bring me here? What you think? I was gonna cry? Okay, I come over. I did it. It's done. And don't you be come around no more, you hear me, Fish? 'Cause you ain't only seen me half bad yet." He turned and headed due east. Maniac walked another way. It was a good question. What had he thought? What had he expected? A miracle? Well, come to think of it, maybe one had happened. While he was looking for one miracle, maybe another had snuck up on him. It happened as he was clamping and lugging Mars Bar down the gauntlet of cobras, trying to keep him alive. And what was Mars Bar doing? Fighting him. Maniac straining to get loose and bust some cobras. Outnumbered, outweighed, but not outhearted. That's when Maniac felt it. Pride. For this East End warrior who Maniac could feel trembling in his arms, scared as any normal kid would be, but not showing it to them. "Yeah, you're bad all right, Mars Bar. You're more than bad. You're good." Maniac stopped. He had been walking in circles. It was dark. He turned one way, then another, for the briefest moment thinking to go home. Thinking, it's time to go home now. Then remembering that once again, he had no home to go to. We'll stop there for today.